Nat, tu peux faire un essai, s'il te plaît?
Tu es là? Est-ce que tu entends? Buongiorno, good afternoon.
Nathalie, peux-tu parler?
Donc, c'est un essai pour la technique avec Florence à la technique. Oui, heureusement, je connais cette salle et je connais les sœurs et plusieurs d'entre vous. Ça va, Florence? C'est pas assez fort. Je rappuie.
Prova. Okay. You can tell me when we can start? I can see you. May I start? Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Patrizia Morgante, the USG Communication Officer. And we are very happy to have people and journalists here on site at the USG and the same time in online. So while Florence will keep doing some tests, I will give you some technical instructions. First, for the people who are on site, Sister Nathalie will speak in French. So if you have any trouble to understand French, you can use the headset and the machine that you have in front of you, and you can select English or French. They are the channel. Channel 1 is English, channel 2 is French. You have to wear if you need any help, Marilde can help you to look for your channel. For the people who are online, you have the icon down below interpretation where you can select English or French. For the people online, the microphone will be muted all the time. You will have the opportunity to make some questions just in the chat. It's not possible today to have a personal individual interviews with Sister Nathalie. She will be able in the following months, and to ask for interviews, you have to contact the communication officer, Father Ariel, and I will give you the email, synodus with the Y, synodus at synod with Y .va, Vatican. So today she won't give personal interviews after the press conference. I'm going to explain how the press conference will take place. We have Sister Yolanda Kafka, USG President. She will introduce the press conference. And then Sister Nathalie will speak for 15 minutes, and then you have the opportunity to ask some questions. We will take questions from on-site and also from the online. So for the journalists who are following the press conference online, they can write the questions on the chat, and we will try to ask those questions to Sister Nathalie. We are planning to close in 1 hour. I think it's okay. Yolanda, the floor is yours.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, especially those who are here for the first time in our premises of UISG and those who are visiting us online. As you know, this place is a place where the general leaders of the female congregations are finding space for formation, for exchange of experiences, for mutual support, and to vision out our path in the church and share this path with others, with the people of God. So welcome here, and a special welcome to Nathalie, who wished to be here today and to, in our environment, give this press conference. Yes, because somehow these premises are also house of Nathalie. No, it is not the first time that she's here. She shared with UISG when she was present in the Synod for Youth. She was also sharing with us when she was present in the Synod of Amazonia, and in several other occasions, when she passes through Rome, she used to visit us. And so in certain way, today we bear fruit of certain collaboration we have, and we are glad that she has this desire to continue with us. And from our side, and in the name of UISG, I would like to express you also our support and our wish that this service in the church will be one more way of contributing the religious life in the synodal path of the church for the service of the whole world. So welcome again, and Patricia will continue to guide our conversation. As everybody knows, we are here to express our interest and to deepen how to better continue the way of the service for the church and for the world. Thank you.
Sister Yolanda and Sister Nathalie, the floor is yours.
Hola, bonjour. Je suis très heureuse d'être ici pour vous rencontrer, non seulement ceux qui sont ici, mais aussi tous ceux qui sont online, que je ne vois pas malheureusement, mais je les salue bien. Je voudrais saluer en particulier et vraiment remercier Sœur Yolanda, Sister Pat, Sœur Florence qui est à la technique, Patricia et toutes les amies et les sœurs de l'UISG. Un des plus grands défis pour moi aujourd'hui, c'est que j'arrive de Paris, où est ma communauté, que j'ai retrouvée mi-décembre après 1 an à Boston College. Et je n'ai pas ma propre communauté de Xavier à Rome. Voilà. Mais je sais que j'ai beaucoup de frères et sœurs et déjà d'amis. Et je voudrais vraiment vous remercier, vous les journalistes, qui avez pris du temps pour venir ici, qui avez déjà répandu la nouvelle. Et surtout m'excuser parce que je sais que beaucoup m'ont sollicité. Je connais vos contraintes. Ça fait pas mal d'années que j'ai des liens avec des journalistes et je n'étais pas en mesure de répondre. Voilà, jusqu'à présent, il y a beaucoup de choses qui sont arrivées en même temps. Mais je n'oublie pas que au tout début,
overwhelmed, but I must admit that before starting my religious life, when I started working in a small consultant office, the first article I wrote was on the church and the media. So hopefully we will be able to carry on this together with you, and allow me to share just a few opening remarks. since I have been appointed, which certainly has surprised me. I believe that you are also familiar with what I lived. I love sailing, as you probably know. I have a long experience as sailor, and I had the feeling that I felt myself that I was basically started a new, let's say, adventure, sailing in the middle of the ocean towards a new adventure. And these were a bit the same images that I felt when I started a sailing course, when I started a sailing cruise. I share the same feelings now. And I have received this call from Pope Francis, which is also the call of the church, and which really has personally touched me very much. Because my entire experience since my christening and since I joined in my religious life, I felt that I'm moving from one call to the next. I must say I would never have ever imagined to find myself in this new role and this new task. So it's truly a surprise, big surprise. And what has touched me since the communication last Monday was the hundreds and hundreds of messages flowing worldwide in a variety of languages. People I have met, people I have crossed, I had contact with throughout my life, and who express the joy, the hope of the news. And you have also contributed in disseminating and in sharing this news. And I'm really impressed by the echoes. And yesterday in Rome, I met a general vicar, and he said, you know, he told me, we are all so happy with this news. So I think that we can really, really sincerely thank Pope Francis and Cardinal Gresh, who are now leading this the boat of the Synod, and who have really given this very strong sign, which certainly does not come from nowhere, but which instead testifies to the listening to the aspirations. And if it really has such an echo, I think because it shows the desire of many Christian men and women to live not only within the walls of the church, but I would say even outside. And what truly surprised me were messages from Muslim, Jewish, Buddhist friends who are not really friends, are also acquaintances or who I shared studies with, who are not within the church, and who express the joy of this choice, of this new call. And I was really touched by all that. I can live this together with you, because I really feel that I'm accompanied by the prayer of many. I know that many have been praying, and particularly starting with my sisters, my fellow sisters, Xaverian sisters. And the appointment arrived when our the Congregation of the Missionaries of Xavier had launched the centenary, because we were founded February the 4th, 1921 in Marseille. So we are now celebrating our first 100 years, so our centennial. And just after the news arrived, so I'm deeply rooted in Jesus Christ, but it goes also through the boat, or Xaverian boat, which is floating together with all the other boats of religious life and more in general of the entire church. And of course, the slogan is passionate with Christ, passionate with fond with Christ, fond with the world. This is our slogan. And so my path, to my personal path, I would like to add this motto, to be passionate with the church. And I must say that even throughout the many tasks and roles, not always easy, you know, it happens when you're in the open sea. You have storms, you have wonderful moments as well, but you have incredible landscapes. We were mentioned the Synod of the Amazonia and as well the Synod of the Youth. And often I said, when somebody asks me, what did I live? I live the church as we truly dream of, fraternal, joyful, centered in the Christ, in Jesus Christ, humble, well-rooted, grounded, and also aware of its struggles, but driven by faith and truly with the desire to serve. And synodality is always missionary. And this is why I'm touched, because I believe it's a very brave sign and a very prophetic choice of Pope Francis, goes beyond the borders of the church, because the church is at the core of the world and it is interacting with the world. And now in this moment we're living, as you can see, we are suffering from the limitations of the pandemics. We're using face masks. We are at social distancing, and we all need now to support each other, to help each other, to express solidarity, and to be somehow carried by this common experience. I also feel that this sign testifies to a concrete change, which is not standalone. Of course, there is a specific now, you know, it is in the limelight, my appointment. But if you somehow look at a broader context, I think it comes in along the lines of a change of the church, a new direction of the church. And I think if this has been possible today is because the mindset has changed, and the relationship between men and women is an ongoing evolution, improving the positive relationships and also on an equal basis. And I think it has certainly changed over a number of centuries. And I am the outcome, I am the fruit of the Church of France, which has generated my life, because the Church of France is truly granting and delegating more responsibility to women. I was the second woman Director General of a service, of the National Service of Youth. In the past, it has always been covered by priests. So a woman as Secretary General. And when I was appointed at the Episcopal Council of Nanterre for 3 years, so the Episcopal Council, if you want, is a bit like a smaller council of bishop. We were 50% half women and half men, so deans and women sisters. So I must say that we have more and more women worldwide in the Episcopal councils, in the decision-making councils, bodies of bishops. So the Synod on Amazonia as well has underlined the importance of empowering women in the Amazonia, locally on the ground. And I was truly touched by someone who had attended the Synod on Amazonia, who said, you know, I must say, all the women from Amazonia greet you, all of them. They join their greetings. So what we are living together, because I am one among many, is that I hope that this appointment will contribute in the dioceses and the parishes and the movements to open up new possibilities to open up new doors and to include more and more women in the reflection, discernment, and decision-making processes, because you probably have read my biography that I have a formation. I have an experience. Let's say, I graduated in entrepreneurship, and I worked. I graduated from HEC in France, so consulting and entrepreneurship. So I must say that even the church has something to learn, and the church has something to say in this field. So as you know, I also have a different experience, which is my background. So the world of marketing and entrepreneurship, women are also now at the top of many companies, and this shows that one of the top companies are the companies with the higher and the greater presence among the at the top of them. And this is because I have learned to work in a team. So teamwork is also part of my experience. In the church, we cannot speak about performances. We cannot speak about financial results, but rather opening up the gift we received from the Lord, and to put it at the service of others and synodality. And I truly learned that very much with young people. And the Pope is saying this is our stake. What is at stake is actually the relationship between men and women, young people and elderly people. And this challenge is a challenge which I believe that here today at the UISG is a world which is a multicultural world, very much blended it with different realities and cultures. And I arrive here with an experience, a varied experience and background of working together, collaborating, meeting people from a great variety of cultures, of different cultures. And I believe that what has touched me the most in my experience here in Rome and at the Vatican in particular, and which truly is testified by this appointment, is the service to a universal church. Every time I attended meetings in Rome, when I had to prepare the World Youth Days, synods with bishops, with experts worldwide, international experts, I have always been touched by the mystery, the message of Christ, that is death is not the end of life, because after death we have resurrection, is a message which has been channeled in all the languages, in all cultures, although it has been expressed in different ways and in a great variety and panoply of forms. And this is something which has also touched me. So when we speak about a synodal church, is a church which is inculturated, which is deeply rooted in different cultures where it is present and which is at the service. I believe that through this choice of Pope Francis, that is to have one woman in the General Secretariat of the Synod, which is a permanent, it's a standing group of 14 people with priests from different countries. We also have lay members, two lay women who are part of the staff and have been there for some time now. So he has appointed two undersecretaries, and this is also changed because the Synod was set up by St. Paul VI in 1965 after Vatican II. And so secretaries and undersecretaries have always been bishops. Now, the fact that the undersecretaries have become two, and one of the two is a woman, this shows the fact that what is being underlined is that the collegiality of bishops bishops collaborating together with Pope Francis, is lived within the synodality, which means taking into account the entire church with all its Christian members, and all the members of the church are men and women. And so now it becomes, it has been engraved, so to speak, in the structure of the synod, that there is this complete change, which is the result of the first element, which is our root, our main core root, that is, we are all Christians, all alike. What has also touched me a lot during the Synod of the Youth and the Synod and of the Pan-Amazonia Amazonian Synod is that today, in basically arriving and joining this new mission, which has been granted to me, is that the synodal church, and this has been underlined by Pope Francis, we all have to work in parallel. We all have to listen to the Holy Spirit. So the church becomes a church open to listening. I want to start this new role with humility, listening, open to listen to all, not only those who are within the church or part of the church, but also beyond. What I would like to share with you, I don't know how much time. Often I've been asked, what is my role precisely? I will have to discover myself, I must say. It's an open path, but having been involved in the Synod of the Youth, not only in France, because at the time I was the director of the Young and Vocations, so for the French Episcopal Council. And also I attended the Synod of the Youth in Rome, and I was the general coordinator. So I have been part of the whole setup, and the undersecretary was Fabeni, so I have been able to understand a bit. And so what is at stake for us, and together with Cardinal Bresch, we have been collaborating for some months now. Since May 2019, I have been appointed consultor. And I must say that he truly has a desire to work together in a synodal way. Since last Monday, we already had a number of meetings, so we have a lot to do. A lot is waiting for us ahead to understand precisely how are we going to organize the Synod of 2022, the Bishops' Synod. It requires coordination. It requires, I think the theme is there, but we have to work. We work together with a council of bishops and cardinals elected at the last synod. So we already have started planning a number of meetings ahead. And I also have joined, after working during over a year and a half, at the Boston College, the School of Theology and Ministry, where I have done a research on synodality and the youth. I worked also on ecclesiology together with a pastoral experience, so an apostolate, because I learned my apostolate on the ground. And also the cardinal arrives with a great experience as a religious, as a theologian. He wrote his thesis on John 23rd, who opened up the doors of the council. And so this sign, this gesture, which was already done during the Synod of the Youth, together with the Synodal Fathers, we understood that there is actually the flow and the of the Synod. So the Undersecretary is driven by this because he knows precisely that this breath is something which we have to read it, because it's interesting to know when did the Synod start. It dates back to the Vatican II. As I said, they were invited as a number of members who were joining in, and then at the end, women were also invited as in a task of co-responsibility. So what I have experienced during the many teamworks and teams I have worked together, and now I must say that after 3 days, I can confirm is that co-responsibility is the way we are going to work ahead. And the idea is also to launch and animate a process which wants to be open so that everyone can be protagonist, empowering everyone in one way or the other, and being closely interconnected and interrelated. Because if you want, the church is active in different ways and in different contexts. And so the Curia, the idea is that we want to be at the service of local churches. So there is a great attention, and I don't know how we're going to implement that, but there is a strong desire to be closely related with the various countries, with the various regional councils, for example, like the CELAM, that is the Latin American one. We also have Australia with the council. We have also one in Germany, and also in the dioceses, other synods are organized. So synodality means that we also have to connect all these synodal initiatives. We cannot limit that only to 1 month in Rome every 3 years. Certainly that's the church we all dream of, but the actual, what is at stake is all that I have mentioned, life locally in the field. I would like to now come to a conclusion, and I then will take your questions. But I have been particularly touched and surprised both at the Synod of the Youth and the Synod of the Amazonia have showed that our target are the two encyclical letters, Laudato Tutti and Laudato Si e Fratelli Tutti. So fraternity, living together, taking care of our common whole. And so synodality is actually grounded and is actually embracing this vision, which is in the Laudato Si and in the Fratelli Tutti, because I think that both are extremely topical, and the way we can tackle the challenge of climate change, Laudato Si, is of paramount importance. And this can be done, men and women together, particularly if we bring to an end the idea that man can dominate and nature, and which we can replace this kind of relationship with a different one, a mutual collaboration instead of domination. Man has to collaborate and has to protect nature, but this has to be done men and women together. And I know that I feel that the church is there, and I also have been experiencing that at the Synod, and also thanks to all the messages. I receive messages from many women who are expressing their joy because they feel represented in my name. But I feel a lot of messages from priests and bishops. I just received this morning a message from a bishop from Latin America who said, finally, some fresh air. We are truly filled with joy. So it's not only women who are rejoicing from this new role, but also many men, cardinals, bishops, priests, journalists. So I believe that in this current moment of crisis, and it is true, the crisis, it's precisely through the storm which we can bring to life something positive, something which is in the wake of a long experience. I want to tell you that I have just published with 4 of my Xaverian sisters, C'est maintenant le temps favorable. It's now, time is the favorable time. This is done with 5 sisters, fellow sisters. We have reflected on the COVID crisis, and then following the Synod of the Youth, the Vatican Publishing, they asked me to write a book on the pastoral of youth, together with youth. It's published in different language. The Holy Spirit renews everything. Ministry with the young and for the young. So pastoral activity with and for the young people. Thank you very much for your attention.
Nathalie, and I want just to make echoes of 2 elements. The first one is that your appointment is really a result of a long process of inclusivity, participation, all the words that you have been sharing with us tell about the Church of inclusivity and participation that is reguessed from the grassroots level. And the second was the first comment that she made with us 2 days ago after the appointment. She said, this is an appointment for all the women religious. And I think this is why we are very happy to be here today. So now the floor is yours. For the people who are here, if you would like to ask questions, you can do it in English and in French, or in French. And I invite you to do it using the microphone. So you have to switch it on the microphone and ask the question. And for the people who are online, you can write your question on the chat. Thank you.
Bonsoir.
Good evening. Andrea Rustichelli, Rai. J'ai 2 questions. So 2 questions. The impact of the synodal vision, which impact it will have on the Italian church? Second question, in your opinion, in this, let's say, path towards the coming synod, the question of ordination of women, of dean women, is that taken into consideration? Thank you very much. I'm not really a specialist of the Italian church, although I have had the opportunity of coming often to Rome. I know that this has been mentioned recently, of the possibility of having an Italian synod. I know that several dioceses have organized a synod, a diocesan synod. So I think there is a reflection ongoing, and there's also discernment which is ongoing within the Italian church. That's the reason why I cannot answer. I must say that synodality is certainly lived in a different way according to the cultures. And I believe if you think about the origin of the church and the governance of the church, it was truly synodal, but then for a number of historical reasons, there has been a different evolution in a different direction. So what I have found also in my research that I have done in different languages and in exploring and analyzing particularly the theological reflection of different cultures show that there is not only one way of living synodality, which does not necessarily mean that all countries, all dioceses at the same time need to follow the exact same synodal path or process, but they will individually do that at their own pace, according to their priorities, to their local reality. And this shows that in Italy, just like in other countries, maybe there is a political crisis, there are economical issues at stake as well, the church as well. So we, even the process of secularization is ongoing. So we need to also to evolve, but what should we do? How should we discern? What I have learned is that we tend to be, there's a lot of people who are clever, that you cannot work alone, you cannot progress alone. We have to join forces. And also I had to this has been my formation because as I learned marketing, so you have to, when you manage crisis, you cannot manage crisis alone. You always have to do that in a synodal way. You have to do that as a teamwork. So we will have to find a way ahead in the good direction. So once again, there's not one single way. The second question, yes, that's which is very much in the limelight now, hitting off in the headlines. Well-ordained women as deacon, it has been mentioned and it has been discussed during the synod, in the final document of the synod, the Amazonian Synod, and the Pope has set up a new commission. One was closed and a new one was set up. So I would say it's part of an ongoing reflection. Now, what of course is the outcome, and I have a number of notes because a couple of months ago, I wanted to compile and bring together all the synodal documents of all the latest synods where there is mention about women. And one of the, let's say, the main issue, the main question, which has also been underlined by Pope Francis, is how can we bring women to participate at the decision-making process and to be empowered. Now, of course, what is at stake is that how can we somehow end with a clerical church where there's been abuses of power and other forms of abuses? How can you yield authority just like Christ? Christ used his authority just to be at the service. So to be at the service and to accompany is to free liberty, to free freedom. So what is it actually at stake is to abandon a clerical church and to move towards a synodal church. What is the path? What is the journey we need to do? We have to open up to new ministries, which are not necessarily ordained. We need to read along the lines of this appointment. My appointment is also an opening of Pope Francis to lectorates and acolytes, which had been already opened in 1972 to lay people by St. Paul VI, and which now it has been opened up to women, so that now they have a ministry which is official, and it's a permanent, is actually something new. And so together with the synodal fathers, basically, I'm thinking about the Synod on Amazonia. I'm thinking about at a ministry of women who as leaders in the community. So the actual key, now that they have been instituted as lectors and acolytes, how can we serve and how can we use our authority as a service within the church, with the very important role of the Pope, of cardinals and priests, but which has to be connected and which has to be conceived in a circular relationship with the other forms of authority, the sensus fidei, because we are all, the Holy Spirit lives and inhabits all of us. This is why synodality is actually identifying these new paths, because we cannot limit to do a cut and paste of what we were doing at the early centuries. There is a certain continuity, but we also have to progress. Just one last word, just to say the way I received this call, which was absolutely unexpected, which has really sort of changed my schedule, because I was about to leave to a mission. And this shows exactly how the Holy Spirit works, because the Holy Spirit takes you by surprise, but at the same time shows a certain continuity. And I think that shows also a certain logic. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't know if there are any other questions, because we do have many questions online. I am of the Agence E-Media. You were speaking about these decision-making roles. You believe that your appointment will open up to the right of vote to other women during the following and the next synods? Could we envisage this? And I also wanted to ask you precisely, how did you live the media coverage of your nomination, the fact that it has been echoed worldwide and it spread rapidly? What does that show of the church today? To answer to your first question, I can tell you it's very simple. Maybe why don't you listen to the interview of Cardinal Breck together with Alessandra, one of the journalists here present, who actually expressed by saying that during the latest synods, several synodal fathers have reflected on the role of women. With the appointment of Sister Nathalie Becquart and the fact that she has a right of vote, this is a new door which has been open, and I believe that new measures will be taken in the future. So this is very clear, I must say. And I believe that the Pope and many others have understood the expression and the request of many synodal fathers and many superiors general along the same lines. I think it's been the result, the outcome of a discernment. And it's been very interesting, because during my theologian search, I have studied on synods since 1965, since the very first. This instrument, which has been the request of the Synodal Fathers, they believe that the experience of the Council Vatican II of being together, gathered together, they were hoping that this experience could be pursued, and Pope Paul VI has decided to do that. And it shows also an evolution, because the evolution is from one synod to the next. So once again, we had for the first time the Synod of the Youth, which was preceded by a pre-synod with a lot of youth people. And then also with the Amazonia, there has been another pre-synod. And I believe that the church is going to continue to discern and to change and to transform itself. I don't think it's something close. I want to add something. Can we speak about synodal mothers instead of saying synodal fathers? You are the first one, I believe. Well, it's quite unusual, because this experience, this expression had already been used during the Synod of the Youth, because we were 7 religious women, and then among the auditors there were also a number of women, and this expression also has been used. So we all focus on the right of vote. However, if you look at the synod and how it is organized and set up, the goal of a synod is to build a consensus in order to reach a common decision, because a synod is a common discernment. And this has really formed me and helped me. And I was fortunate that I have lived in my congregation 2 general chapters as capitulant. So we, as you know, a general chapter is tasked with defining the new guidelines. And I also echo with what Sister Yolanda has said. It's a common discernment in prayer, exchange, sharing, and reflection. So the goal is to generate communion. If you read the texts, the synodal texts, they are voted with a majority of 80, 90%. So I'm not saying that vote is the end of a process. And so if the process has been streamlined and fluid, normally the outcome is very positive. That is what I wanted to say. Thank you very much. Another question here and then another one online. I am from the La Croix, the daily. The question is, how can we better associate women to the decision-making process of the church? I clearly understood that this is your new role and task, but do you have any insights that, or let's say, do you have any idea in mind on how we can further increase the number? I can give you 2 indications. Maybe you can even read that it has been published by La Croix. So when I took the floor at the Synod of the Youth, you probably know that all the auditors and the Synodal Father, we have 4 minutes over the 2 months to express something. And so I had chosen to speak because it was the result of my experience in the wake of animation, pastoral of the youth, that we need to, the actual, what is at stake in our church today is how to work in a diversified teamwork. So I'm thinking about a chaplaincy, a group of young people who join the World Youth Day. So when you have a mixture, when you have a blend of different, men and women, religious and non-religious, all together in discerning, it is absolutely very enriching. And so this is my idea. I think this is already a reality in many places. I'm thinking about parishes. In parishes, sometimes the work which has been done in a parish is instead with one leader, and it is top down, and it absolutely does not have this teamwork. And I think we have to now move towards a collaborative leadership, a circular leadership. And I think in the church we have wonderful experiences which confirm its importance. And as I said, during 3 years, I was member of the Episcopal Council of Petit, before coming to Paris as the Bishop of Paris. I was in Nanterre, in another reality local, and I was there as a religious, but we also had lay people joining, and I noticed how fecund all that was, working together, joining forces and joining opinions, because bishops and the vicar general, as a priest, of course, has a specific link with other priests. We as women, we are viewed in a different way. And I would say that in religious life, and I must say that female religious life has an advantage. And I believe that that's truly the advantage of women, because we also feel the otherness within the church. When we want to celebrate the sacraments, we also have priests. So I think this could be an advantage to us, because maybe priests are always within themselves and they don't have this possibility. And when you have a pure masculine or a pure community of only men, it's certainly more limited to what we experience. And I really enjoyed very much when I worked at the National Service Youth and Vocations. I had 2 young, I had a priest and a religious member, which of course evolved over the years. But I must say that we always, when we had formation courses, we always had 2. We always had a man and a woman, and so we were never alone. So my idea is that in the structure of a diocese, where you have the bishop, you have the vicar, the general vicar, locally, I think there has to be an alternative. There has to be, in addition, a lay person. And I believe that the reform of the Curia, which the Pope has started, he appointed Ruffini as prefect of a dicastery, shows the same. What I'm saying, that it's opening up a new door.
Thank you very much, Nathalie, because you also answered many questions in the chat for the journalists online. So I will give the floor now to a couple of questions from the online. And Roland is inviting you in German to talk and to be part of the synodality process in Germany, just for you to know. So you have already an invitation. The question from Vida Nueva is, there are two questions. One is, do you feel, Nathalie, that your appointment makes history in the church? And the second, do you think Pope Francis is trying to make women more visible and also the voice of women heard for the Synod in 2022?
Alors, c'est pas à moi de dire.
Well, it's not my task to say if my appointment becomes an historic event. I accepted, and I must say that this joy, and the prayer is to be able to live that in a humble way, joyful, and to remain always at the service. So inevitably, together with you, I am part, and I assist to the news spreading. I also learned to know myself over the years. I am also fairly creative and open, but I have read a lot. And I've been also forged by history. So my master in ecclesiology is Yves Congar. You can read his wonderful book on the reform of the church, which he always speaks about how the Holy Spirit works, and works always innovating, but innovating with continuity with the past, with tradition. So we, even if at a given moment, I know you as media, you have to have breaking news. That's your task. That's your role today, to become, to publish something spectacular. But let's try to follow deep down the flow of this historical. And who was the first breaking news has been Jesus Christ. Imagine where he arrived, the way he related with women at the time, and what kind of women in addition. So you can read the Holy Scriptures along these lines. But the church has been always rooted and also, let's say, forged by this kind of context. Together with the society, always in a patriarchal mindset. And I think it's this patriarchal mindset is changing. When I was in Boston, was just during the election. As you know, in the States now, it's the first time there is a woman as vice president of the United States. So let's look beyond our borders and what's happening worldwide. And I believe that what has really touched me after my 25 years with the Xaverian sisters, and the fact that women in the church is not only something that the women are sponsoring. It has been sponsored also by men, and this is what is actually making history. And I think that Pope Francis, which is a man of his own generation, which does not necessarily share the mindset of a young person, but he is close, he is rooted in the people of God, and he feels, he listens. He is the one who is writing the history, and the Holy Spirit, of course, behind. Thank you very much. We have two questions in French from Jean-Marie Le Figaro. They're interesting because they speak about your experience in Boston. First question, your stay and your research on synodality at the Boston College, what was the contribution? What did you learn from that? And what is more important from your appointment, the role of women in the church or the role of synodality in the church? To answer to the first question, I'm really very grateful to my congregation with my Superior General, Christine Danel, and my Xaverian congregation for having granted me this time, because I ended my term at the Synod with the French. Normally, after it's a 6-year term, it ended in August 2018. I attended the Synod of Young, and after 12 years at the Synod of Bishops, which was a wonderful experience, but I was a bit tired after the Synod of the Youth. So I felt to take a sabbatical term, and which was also a moment of discernment where I felt, and I was also called by others who said maybe it was a good idea to go back to studies. And my year in Boston, after an initial year at the Institut Catholique in the Catholic Institute in Paris, I really studied a lot. I worked a lot, very austere, very simple. I was reading all the time, studying and then writing, because I had to follow my classes and write a lot of dissertations. And I felt I learned a lot. And this has really been a gift for me. The actual gift of this sabbatical year has been time. And I know that for many pastoral members and representatives, we are so squeezed in our missions that what we are lacking is precisely time, a time to pause, a time to reflect. And my year at Boston has taught me the patience and the importance. Has been almost like an ascetic year. I remained in silence in the background. And this is truly an opportunity, but also fortune. And I must say that the COVID crisis has imposed a bit of, let's say, a different life, which is more calm, not as frantic. So the fact that you allow the Holy Spirit to work over time, and the Pope Francis insists, time exceeds space. For what I've seen and what I am discovering at the Vatican, you need a lot of patience. I know. And certainly on these issues, the church, just like on many other organizations, any change requires time. Thank you so much. Maybe on the second question, I think that you should read. You cannot, you have to read and interpret this appointment. You have to place it in a broader framework. It's the role of lay people in the church. It should be viewed and taken into account, the word of lay people, of their charism, and also take into account, because the church from the origin has always been Peter and Paul, hierarchical dimension, the various charisms, but also religious life. We are two religious women appointed together. And this is really a choice, together with Cardinal Gac, who is a diocesan priest and also bishop. He said, I always worked with religious life, and I think it's absolutely fundamental and important to work together side by side. I have two concluding questions for the journalists online. And if you have one more question, Anita Bourdon, Zanet, France Arabe, asks you the following. How do you view the role of religious women in this synodality? Is it like an interface as a facilitator? And that's the second question. How can the youth say something, so have their word listened when the synod is not for young people? Interesting, the two questions. I think, and I also wrote that on one of the UISG newsletters and bulletin. I think that religious life, due to its experience as community life, because, you know, religious life implies community life. So during the year of consecrated life has been already underlined, and also the direction of Pope Francis is that we have to be prophetic. Religious life has to be prophetic. So we are forged by this life, community life, and also we are certainly influenced also by authority. Authority is a service together with elections, chapters, general chapters, gives us an experience of common discernment, which is certainly lived in a different way according to our charisms. It changes between the Jesuits, the Dominicans, and many others. But however, all in all, I would say that religious life has a lot to share more broadly to the entire church, because actually what is the core center, the central question on synodality, there's still a lot to be said, but the International Theological Commission has written a very interesting document, Synodality in the Life and Mission of the Church. It was published in March 2018, but today what is actually at stake is the implementation. How can we concretely implement synodality at all levels? So how can we handle the different processes? So discernment is not a technique. It's not, mathematics. It's an art and requires a lot of formation to discern. And so I think that religious life has that kind of experience, which it can contribute, but it has also a lot to learn. Have also been, let's say, fueled or irrigated, because I'm familiar with the world of companies, with entrepreneurs, together with different forms of coaches, and the experience of the bishops in France. They have launched a synodal experience centered on Laudato Si. And so during their plenaries, during the last 2 years, every bishop is accompanied by 2 lay people, and they have delegated the animation of these days to someone who is called the University of Us, l'Université de Nous. So basically working also in the field of the environmental issues, where the bishops are very pleased with this initiative because they identified new ways of animating their meetings. And I think that religious life is also very enriching. So we can learn, and the church has something to say. And through the synodal experience, after the pre-synod of the youth, what really surprised me was there was an atheist. He was a young atheist, and he was discovering the church. At the end of the week, he was so enthusiastic that he said, I'm going to write to the President of the Republic, because politicians have a lot to learn from our synodal processes. And also Cardinal Kresch mentions that. So there is this exchange.
Thank you very much, Nathalie. Thank you, Yolanda. I don't know if you have other question, 2 minutes. Do you have okay, I think there are. You shared a lot. But it would be the last meeting with Nathalie here because now this is her house, as Sister Yolanda said. So you are most welcome here, and all the best wish from all the sisters that are following also on the social media. So you can feel our support, right, Sister Pat? Would you like to say a final word? Secretary of the USG.
I think in religious life, we always say where one of us is, all of us are. And in your appointment, Sister Nathalie, you know you have the prayers and the support of religious men and women worldwide. And I think in putting your finger on discernment, as a way of proceeding, which Pope Francis speaks about again and again. I think this is a gift that we as religious can share with the world. You said so clearly, it's not a technique. It's actually a way of living life. And a way of living life in connection with what's happening around one and seeing what each of us, man and woman, lay and religious, no matter who we are, believer or non-believer, we're affected by, if we're in touch with our world today, and if we're aware within ourselves, that's where God speaks in an interior way. And then we're called on to give voice to that in the communion within the church, but also in the human family. So that together we really search for a new way of living, a way of living that looks particularly at those who are suffering on the margins of life, because being synodal is not for ourselves. Being synodal is to be the presence of Jesus in the world of today and to meet the needs of those who are most neglected and most forgotten. So I do believe there's a deep desire in humanity and in people to bring about a flourishing of life for each person and also for our planet. You know, we see the wounds that are in people and we see the wounds that are on the face of our earth. So I think as a religious woman, as women, and also the equality of men and women in the world today. My own foundress is Mary Ward, who in the early 1600s said, women in time to come will do much. And I have a sense that time is now, but she was very clear that it wasn't just women as a group apart, but it was women and men together, sharing that mutuality and that giftedness, that when we bring that together in unity, there's something wonderful happens among us. That's where the richness, the giftedness happens. And I think Jesus showed us the way, calling forth the giftedness of women as he walked during his time and broke with the culture of his time, called women forth in different ways, so that together men and women can really bring about the flourishing of humankind. Thank you. And we wish you well, and you have our blessing and our support in every way.
Thank you so much.
This is your home.
Yes, I know that. Thank you so much. I have already experienced such sisterhood and brotherhood more broadly, and that will be my last word to thank you all here and online. And you know, the key word for synodality for me is reciprocity. It's being in this relational church, in this relational humanity as brothers and sisters to build friendship. And so I really wish that we have this also reciprocity and encounter and mutuality between you all, the journalists, and us to continue the path together. Of course, each one in a different place with different but it's a path of encounter, as Pope Francis asked for this culture of encounter, and that's the deep desire of so many people around the world. And the Synod struck us because we are listening to the cries of the victims, but it's also a path of, and I have experienced that for myself, that's why I'm so touched. It's a path of salvation, of resilience, of reconciliation, and our broken world is waiting for that. So thank you so much.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for your presence, and you are in our list, so we will be in touch. Thank you for coming. Thank you again, Sister Nathalie and Sister Yolanda and Sister Pat. Thank you to all the journalists who follow the conference online and for your question. They are thanking you on the chat. Yolanda, can we take a photo, the three of you?
Oh, okay, okay.